This game has certain features that you will not find in any other game. In addition to having good eyesight and applying strategic thinking, players should be tactful, calm, and patient when striking the ball. The skill of leading their opponent into a trap and not getting caught in it themselves is considered true mastery, virtuosity, and even art. In the program Generation UA, Ukrainian professionals will share the secrets of winning in the game of billiards. Billiards helped me realize myself. I like the intellectual excitement that this game brings. Billiards is a kind of sport, a game, recreational activity that is impossible to describe in one word, if only because there are currently 7 official forms of billiards, 3 of which are recognized by the International Olympic Committee. Those are pool, snooker, and carom billiards. All those games are entirely different. Take carom billiards, for example, which is played on a table without pockets. There are 70 types of games and 200 million fans of this game around the world. The second one is snooker, which is the most popular for television viewers, the most colorful, intellectual, and probably the most difficult of all the types of billiards. And pool is the most democratic and most widespread form of billiards. Here's another reason why this game is interesting. There are 60 shooting techniques in billiards, and only in pool all 60 are not just permitted by the rules, but if a person wants to be a professional player, they must be able to perform all of those techniques. The situation that we're up against was quite interesting. The cue ball remained in the center of the table, just as we had planned, but the 8 ball also remained in the center of the table, which meant that the 13 ball would be the key ball in the game. If to speak of tough, difficult balls, the first thing that we should take note of is that solid balls are more problematic than striped balls, so it is better to focus on the striped ones, says Vitaly. There are many different theories as to the origin of the game of billiards. Some say it originated in China, others say it was invented in England, but I only trust those sources that are verified in official documents. In our billiards club and school, you will see paintings hanging on the walls that were collected from large encyclopedias describing the history of billiards. In those documents and wonderful paintings, one can see the chronology of the development of this exciting game. Indeed, the first prototype of the game of billiards appeared in 3,500 years BC. It was only in 1469 that a billiards table was purchased by the French king, which means this was the first date to which we can attribute the origin of the accessories that we use today in modern billiard establishments, or as they call them in today's vernacular, pool halls. The situation with billiards is quite interesting in Ukraine. Why is that? There are billiards tables here that are traditional for post-Soviet countries. That is Russian billiards, which means a pyramid of white balls that are racked and broken with a red ball, such as the nuance of Russian billiards, so to speak. Something difficult, like pocketing something that is supposed to be impossible to pocket.
Забить туда, куда вообще, по идее, забить невозможно.
From the recognized forms of billiards, there is pool, snooker, and carom billiards. In our country, at the moment, the most significant results are shown in American pool. I started playing billiards in 2009. I was 11 at the time. I can say that my friend dragged me there because I didn't want to go. I thought only old men played it. So I tried it at the first training session and I really liked it. So I kept playing. That was American pool. We had a great club in Lviv, which was created especially for young kids to train there. My parents reacted well to that idea because I finally found a hobby for myself. I started getting good at it at the first training session and I got excited about it, so to say. It's an intellectual and individual sport, and it cannot be traumatic. Then the coaches saw me and told me that I was talented and promising. I ended up in Kyiv. I started taking part in the Ukrainian Cup and other tournaments. Victoria Nahirna noticed me, who is a merited billiards coach of Ukraine, so she proposed to me to train at her school. Naturally, I accepted this offer that I could not refuse. Then I began my studies at the National University of Physical Education and Sport of Ukraine and started training in Kyiv full-time. Daria, I returned from the World Cup in China last week. There were 400 participants and it was an incredible competition. My opponent was one of the best. Yes, I saw the game. You did well. You took advantage of all the opportunities. I engaged in many forms of sports that were more mobile, but billiards is more intellectual sport. The first time I went to a billiards club was when my father took me with him. He played billiards because his grandfather also brought him to a club. So he proposed that I should also try it out someday, and he took me and my brother to a billiards club when I was 8 years old. That's how the first training went, and I was able to hold the cue properly. So I kept training and my brother only continued a year later. When I started, my first training was playing pool, and that's the game I play today. Ukraine became the first country to recognize this form of billiards and pool in general at the state and university level. A lot of attention is being paid to sports training now. In addition to our techniques and tactics, it's also a matter of proper physical training. Usually, international championships, for example, the European Pool Championship lasts 2 weeks. The games take place from 9 a.m. and can go all the way until 10 p.m. For this simple reason, a person without physical training simply cannot compete with professional athletes. There is a concept of children's sports schools, where high-class coaches with special education work. Unfortunately, compared to, say, basketball, which has 1,200 sections in children's sports schools with basketball specialization, there are currently only 3 such billiards sections. However, there are a lot of private schools. Those are private clubs, where specialists who have no special education work, but who have achieved considerable results in their sport. Taking Russian billiards, that is pyramid, into consideration, we have always had strong schools in Kharkiv, Dnipro and Kyiv, of course. Speaking of pool, no offense to the other Ukrainian cities, but currently Kyiv and Dnipro are competing with each other, both in quantity and quality. As for our national team, the best results are mostly shown by those players who live in the aforementioned cities. Training has become more interesting, as today there are more people participating. That's better, because I was training on my own in Lviv, and there was nobody else. And of course, it's much more interesting to practice in a group of people. I'm pretty sure everyone knows the secret of success. It takes a lot of practice to get good at whatever sport you engage in. I first participated for an hour or 2 a day, but later it was more like 5 to 6 hours. I can say that I practically lived in that billiards club. I only showed up at home in the evening, since I ran to practice straight from school and came home at about 9 or 10 p.m. They even fed me there. I was like a son to them. The coach decides a lot of things. If he's a good trainer, he'll always notice your mistakes and give advice as to what you do wrong and what you should do to improve your play. Naturally, it was difficult to even hold the cue properly in the beginning. It was sore after the first training, but it comes to you with experience. It took me about 6 months to learn how to hold the cue and stand properly in order to strike the ball accurately. However, when you play and you're winning 4-0 to 6, you can simply lose concentration and lose the game. It's very important to stay focused in this intellectual form of sport right to the very end, meaning right until you sink the last ball. I think anyone can learn to play billiards. It just depends on the quantity and quality of training and how determined a person is. I was not very serious about it for the first 2 or 3 years, because my brother and I were fooling around all the time, so most of our practice took place under the table. But later, when I started earning my first medals, I began to take a more serious approach to the game and about practicing harder. It was then that I realized that I could really achieve high results. I used to practice about 2 times a week, but now I practice 3 times a week for an hour and a half to 2 hours.
У нас в стране существует несколько разновидностей турниров, как и в других видах спорта, которые...
There are several types of tournaments in our country that are recognized by the state, just like in other sports. Those are city and regional tournaments that are divided into certain age categories. We're not working on a program that would replicate the situation at the international championships. Having been using this method for 6 years now, there hasn't been a single European championship where Ukraine wouldn't take home a medal. Our athletes have been using this program for 6 years in a row, and they keep reaching such a high performance level. We have medals from the European and World Championships.
На чемпионатах Европы, чемпионатах мира у нас есть медали.
Over 9 years of playing billiards, I managed to participate in the Ukrainian Cup and Ukrainian Championships a number of times. I took part in the European Junior Championships 2 or 3 times and played in the Adult European Championships. I'm a multiple champion of Ukraine and the undisputed champion of Ukraine for the 3rd consecutive year. I took first place in 2015 at the Junior European Championships, and a year later I managed to take first place among men. To be honest, I did not expect such great results. Frankly, my goal for that tournament was 1/4, and when I reached it, I thought to myself that I'd been through so much, so I had to keep going all the way to get first place. And that's how it turned out. Of course, I like competitions of such a level. They're well organized, and it's safe to say that they're perfect for playing billiards. Competitions are a chance to prove yourself and show what you've learned. I took part in many cups, in stages of Ukrainian cups, in children's championships of Ukraine, in adult championships of Ukraine, in international tournaments, in European championships, and I also took part in the World Championship once. Last year, I went to Adult Championships of Ukraine for the first time and became the undisputed champion among girls. I also earned a silver medal and 2 bronze medals at the European Championship. The billiards family coach and all the friends are like a second home to me. Most of all, I like the fact that we regularly meet up every year, not necessarily to train but to relax while on vacation. We all get together a week before the Ukrainian Championship and go to the sea. Every year, that's a kind of relaxation before the championship, and all of us rest and have some fun.